Good evening, and welcome to the Matthew Danko Podcast. Don't call it that. I'm your host, Matthew the Dr. Danko. Hey folks, it's been a while. It's been a while since I've done any podcasting lately, or at least uploaded shows. I've done podcasts, don't get me wrong. I just haven't uploaded them, and that's because, you know how before I wouldn't record a show in like a year, due to the fact that I had school and I was working a job and just a lot of shit would get in the way. Well, now that I don't have a job and I'm out of school, people think that I have all this time and plan my days for me. So I have no control over my life, as established on the Guys Talking About Shit podcast. Everything is out of my control. People think I have nothing better to do than do what they need me to do. But there's a lot of projects and shit that I want to do, podcasting being one of them. So, since the last time I was with Adam and Bobby, I have recorded a few shows. You'll hear Jamie and Cody come back. We talk about Tusk and get into that a little bit. Jesse Pardee and I talk about this wonderful play that we saw, I believe it's called The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. Phenomenal stuff. I mean, I don't know if any of you have heard about it. It's just wonderful. Her friend Taylor Trench plays the lead character, and it's phenomenal. He plays this autistic boy. He's in this garden with this dog who's been stabbed with this gardening fork, and he's trying to figure out who did it, and he has autism, so he's like going around the neighborhood asking questions, trying to play detective. And, you know, he doesn't like to be touched. He has this nervous tic. At one point, he goes onto the subway train. It's just, the kid's an amazing actor, and the story is wonderful. And, I mean, even the special effects and the set, the choreography, all of it. It was just fantastic. I guess that's why it won the Tony for Best Play. So we get into that a little bit. Like I said, Jamie and Cody are back. And then I do a few solo shows, commentary for a few DVDs. Jurassic Park, I think, is one of them, and we get into another Kevin Smith movie, but I haven't been sitting on my ass. I have been recording shows, I just haven't uploaded them yet. And I didn't want you guys to think I was getting inconsistent and lazy again. I've been traveling back and forth between Pittsburgh and New York, and I just have my hand in all these other projects, and it's been kind of crazy. But don't fear, those will be uploaded probably within the next 2 weeks, if not over the course of July. Those shows will all be up. And hopefully I'll be back on the Guys Talking About Shit podcast to discuss some, video game news. They just had a show, I think it went up Sunday. That's usually when they go up. They get into some, more video game news, and they go into some movie news, Jurassic World being one of them. I wish I could have sat on the set for that, because, fuck, I love that movie. I mean, I know, it has its problems, but the nostalgia of it, I mean, it's a Jurassic Park for a new generation of viewers, for kids to grow up with, just to marvel at dinosaurs, like that enjoyment. I mean, the movie did phenomenally well worldwide. That's undeniable. I mean, I haven't looked at the numbers lately, but opening weekend it was 500 million, and it's been the top movie in the box office pretty much every week since it's been out. I get it. I mean, it grabs all the original viewers of the Jurassic Park franchise, but brings in the kids to a new world of Jurassic Park. And I do know there are some problems with the story and the plot and the blah, 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 but it's a fun movie to watch. And I suggest, if you haven't seen it, what the hell are you waiting for? Go out, get some popcorn, and go see that shit, because it's wonderful. Wish I could have seen it in 3D and IMAX, but, whatever. I also missed Back to the Future, which came to Lowe's Theater near my house. They do this thing where they play old movies, like for a matinee price, and Back to the Future was like last week. Would have been amazing to see that in theaters. I know it'll probably be there again, but it's just the idea. Anyways, so while this is an update show, I'll let you know a few things that have been going on with me. I am looking for a new place to live in New York. I'm finally, making the move out of where I've been at for a long time. To be with my girlfriend, yes, but to, start my venture into the film industry and all that shit. Very scary stuff, but it's stuff that needs to be done. And so I'm looking at places in New York, which will be awesome because I love that city. I mean, Pittsburgh is beautiful, and New York is like Pittsburgh on steroids and crack because it's huge and it's just fast-paced, but there are some wonderful little places to just go and relax. Those of you who do know me, I'm very timid and very, chill, mellow all the time. New York is kind of the exact opposite. One of my favorite places to go, and this is gonna pretty much negate everything I said because it's neither quiet nor relaxing. ToysRUs in Times Square. First of all, I'm a toy geek. I love toys, obviously. Very big collector of toys. And Times Square is a cool place to be. It's very touristy. But in this ToysRUs, it's 4 stories. There's a giant Ferris wheel inside it. There's an ice cream parlor. There's a Willy Wonka candy set up there. There's Lego World. There's Barbie Kingdom. There's all these different sections. But the part that I love the most is the giant animatronic T-Rex in the store. They have Superman up in the rafters of the store, with holding back this giant truck as if he was, stopping it from hitting all the people below. And they have Spider-Man hanging from the ceiling as well. But the animatronic T-Rex, it has this wonderful display stand which has trees and broken down electric fence with high voltage right next to the T-Rex, the archway to Jurassic Park. They're not 100% full scale because that would be ridiculous, but they are huge. And the animatronic T-Rex, I could stand there in that store, look at it for hours, because it roars, it moves its eyes, it blinks, it moves its arms. It's just phenomenal. And the saddest part is that ToysRUs is actually going to be closing. So go there when you can. It's closing, I guess, because the rent in Times Square is too high now. So I don't blame them for moving, and I don't know where they're moving to. I haven't really looked into it, but it's just are they going to take the T-Rex with it? I want that T-Rex. Granted, it's seen better days. The neck, because it extends its neck in a full roar, rocks its head back and forth, and opens its giant mouth. The material around its neck is starting to pull and break and crack, and part of it's hanging off. Are they going to repair that, or what's going to happen to the T-Rex? I would love that T-Rex. I think when I have my own house with a backyard and shit, I would like to build a giant animatronic T-Rex. Not hovering over my house per se, but just large enough that you could see it in front of my house. If you were standing on the street, you could see the head of the T-Rex behind my house, because it would just be a cool thing to have. Maybe I make it, put a ladder in it, kind of like in Fallout New Vegas, where you can go to the top and look out of its mouth or something. I would like to make it an animatronic T-Rex that is almost like a giant puppet, because it would just be so cool. And like I said, I have so much fun just staring at the one in Times Square, ToysRUs. Why not have one in my backyard? And it's something that I believe I'm capable of building to a degree. I can build the base of it. The animatronics are the part I would need to learn how to do, but it's just I could definitely build the T-Rex itself, make it all out of latex. I would have to think of something for the weathering, and then just paint over that. It would have to be a giant resin dinosaur, essentially, but that's the thing. I like making things, and I like constructing and customizing shit. That would be a wonderful project. I've told a few people that I have ideas for a TARDIS home with, a rotating room system. I don't know. I think it's really cool. I've drawn up plans for that, which was a big project. Obviously, it's building a house, but a functional TARDIS house is a whole nother thing. But anyways, as for the projects that I've been able to do lately, I've made a bookcase door for my closet. So, like, I mean, you can't pull a book yet and open the door, but I've made it so that the bookcase goes in the doorway and seals off the closet. I just have to add like trim around it and make it look like it's part of the wall, like it's set in there. Then I can add a book lever that opens the door and shit. I actually worked on that today. I've also been customizing a few toys, some henchmen from the Arkham Asylum, Arkham City games. I just painted a Jurassic Park Jeep, little tiny Jeep that I had laying around. Yeah, I just find it's a hobby that I can just sit and do on my own time, kind of like podcasting, where I can get into a project and focus on that and, put on a podcast and listen to it while I'm painting or cutting or whatever. I have real fun doing that. I just customized, or not really customized, but I added headlights and taillights to my buddy Mike Moose's Jurassic Park Jeep he customized. He found this old Jeep at a flea market for I think like $1. Big enough almost for his Kenner Jurassic Park figures. He painted it, and then I was like, you know what, I could probably add taillights and headlights to this. Got some LEDs and some wire and added a battery compartment. Boom, it's done. I'm sure I could upload some pictures to that, but I just have fun doing that shit. And most of the time my eyes are bigger than my hands, I guess, because I have such ambition and so many large ideas that the actual sitting down and doing them sometimes overwhelms me, and I don't accomplish them all the time. But I've been getting better now that I don't have school and whatnot. But what the fuck was I talking about? Yes, New York. I'm moving to New York. Hopefully by the end of July, or at the very least the end of August. We're trying to find a cheap place, so if any of you out there are listening and you need two sublets or have a room you know of that's available, please comment below. And I know that's a really shitty thing to do on a podcast, but, whatever. Other than that, I've been, watching a lot of movies lately, which I've done some commentary tracks for. I know hearing my voice while you're watching, like, Men in Black or some shit, I know it's not the best thing you can do on a Saturday night, but it was something for me to do on a Saturday night, so suck it. I even have a few game commentary things in the works. Not really. I mean, the Guys Talking About Shit podcast, which is, I would say, a sister show to the Matthew Danko podcast. They have the video game monopoly, I would say, because I know shit about video games. But I was thinking earlier today, I could just, turn on a video game that I play. I don't play many video games, but the few I have that don't require me to, like, actually hear what's going on, I can just run through it, like Fallout New Vegas. I've been playing that recently, replaying that rather, because I just love, free roam games. I could just put that on and do a podcast, have me playing it in the background, and whatever happens in the game, I can update you on that. I don't know, it's something I've been kicking around. But anyways, other than video games and, my movies and podcasting and shit, nothing much has been going on. The toy customizing, I haven't really bought anything new that you guys haven't seen. I did. I do have a very special Jurassic Park item coming in the mail, and it should be here tomorrow. For those of you excited about toy collecting, or my toy news, or just seeing pictures of shit that I post, or even Jurassic Park, this is one of the coolest pieces, I think, that Kenner, my favorite toy company, released. It's the Giants T-Rex. Now, the one I'm getting isn't the Bull T-Rex, but at the same time it is. Kenner was notorious for taking a toy, altering it slightly, mostly with a new paint job, and branding it as a different toy completely. And they would produce 3 or 4 of that toy, like with different paint jobs or slightly altered, features on it. Like the one I always jump to is the Wayne Manor for the Batman toy line. They released it every year when there was a new Batman movie with just a repaint and new stickers on it. With the Batman the Animated Series, Tim Burton's Batman, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, all of them had the same exact Wayne Manor. Even the Batman New Adventures with the luckily the toys were slightly different in their paint job and the molds were for the new Batman Adventures, but the Wayne Manor for that set was the exact same. So yeah, the T-Rex I got is a bull T-Rex. But the bull T-Rex has, the little guy in the cage that the T-Rex will swallow, and you can see the slit in his stomach to retrieve the toy. It's that T-Rex. But mine doesn't have the slit in the stomach. Still has, the capability of swallowing a toy. It just has a hole in its backside. Essentially, it has an asshole. But it's a puppet, so you could fit your arm inside it and, put your hand in its mouth and, use it as a puppet, which, to a degree, I think is kind of cooler than the bull T-Rex. But don't get me wrong, I still want the bull T-Rex and that little guy. But this one is cooler, I think, because you actually get to be the T-Rex. The hole also makes a little more sense. I know it's in his ass, but having the slit in the stomach always was weird to me. There's just a slit in his stomach. It doesn't really close up in any way. It's kind of just there. And I know as a kid you can use your imagination and shit, and it's a way for you to get the toy back, but and I know that's so weird to say, but it makes sense. He eats the dude, the lawyer, he shits him out later. I mean, at one point, I think it's in the 3rd movie, they make a reference to that. The guy who has the phone with the plumber ringtone on it gets eaten. We hear him with the cell phone, that ring. It's established in the beginning of the movie. Spoilers if you haven't seen Jurassic Park 3. I think that movie was, 97 or early 2000s? Probably 2000. 97, I think, was Lost World. I could be wrong on that. Somebody fact check me. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But it sets it up where the guy has the cell phone with the very distinct ringtone, and we essentially hear him get eaten, but then another character, Eric, the kid who was in Genius on the Disney Channel, one of the most underrated Disney Channel original movies ever made, he hears it, recognizes it, thinks it's his dad, runs over to it, and it's a big pile of shit. And he's like, what? And the animal that ate him I think it was the Spinosaurus, is right there, and we're like, fuck. Shit's messed up. But anyways, it always made more sense to me to put the hole in his ass, because he would shit out the toy. I mean, doesn't that make sense to anybody else? Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm the weird one. But I want some realism in my toys. God damn it. Anyways, having it as a puppet, I think, is cooler, because you can also make them eat, make the T-Rex eat the action figure, and it'll look great on the shelf because you won't see the hole. I could always plug the hole up if I wanted to, but having it on the stomach, I think, is a little more difficult, and it would be a lot more noticeable. It's about 26 inches long. It's a wonderful scale for the T-Rex, in line with the Kenner Jurassic Park figures. And it's coming tomorrow. So I'm very excited for that. I pretty much showed you guys all my recent toys that I bought, all the DC toys I've got. But Jurassic Park is the kick I'm on now because of Jurassic World. Seeing that movie just made me so happy. It made me feel like a kid again, and I didn't get to see the movie when I was a kid. In theaters, at least. I saw the movie probably around the age of 6 or 7, but I was born when that movie came out, so obviously I didn't get to see it. And then they didn't do the whole see a movie that's like been out for decades, like been out for ages in theaters, and like we didn't go to movies that often. I'm surprised I saw as many movies in theaters as I did. I've probably seen more now than I have when I was a kid, and I don't see movies that often now. But when I saw Jurassic World, it made me feel like this is what I should feel like. This is what I would have felt like watching Jurassic Park. At the same time, it's different because obviously I know dinosaurs. I'm not a child. Like the wonderful thing about Jurassic Park is the year it came out. I mean, actually, it didn't come out in 92. It came out in 93. My fault. The year it came out, all the kids that were, cognizant and pretty much at the age where they could go see movies like that, they were already kids who liked playing with dinosaurs, I would say. And if not, that definitely got them into playing with dinosaurs. But, it was before, like, cell phones and shit. I mean, the internet wasn't, like, nobody had access to the internet as much as we do now. So kids were always making shit up and imagining things themselves, like, true imagination. But when the movie came out, it was like, essentially Spielberg was like a kid playing with toys. He made these elaborate practical special effects with these large animatronic dinosaurs that just brought the wonder and amazement to the big screen. I'm not saying there weren't amazing movies and wonderful feats of special effects before. I mean, Star Wars came out before that. We loved Star Wars. But it was just like, fuck. I wish dinosaurs actually did exist. This is as close as I'm going to get a giant movie with all these dinosaurs in this park. And the whole concept of Jurassic Park is so awesome on paper. Let's build a zoo, but instead of, your run-of-the-mill wild animals, we fucking have dinosaurs. Go up and touch a bronchosaurus or what the fuck ever. It doesn't matter. Just, it's a giant safari park, and you can see a T-Rex, which is scary, but it's that level of being afraid that I think also excites. There's just so much wonderful in the idea. Granted, having Newman shut the power off and all that shit was a mistake. Obviously, they didn't have control over that, but maybe next time don't hire Newman. And all the shit that happens in the movies following, just dumb ideas, obviously. Still good movies, with the exception of 3. I will defend 4, because I liked 4. Even with all its problems and shit, it made me feel like I was watching the first one in 93. It also brought back all the nostalgia of the first movie, which in a sequel, it's supposed to bring back some references to, familiar territory. But it's also supposed to be its own movie, and I think a few people are forgetting that fact, is that it's for a newer generation of kids. It's for a newer audience. I mean, I know one of my buddies complains that the movie, like, he doesn't want to be told he should just shut his brain off to enjoy the movie. I get that, and I agree with it. You shouldn't have to shut your brain off to enjoy something. But on the flip side of that is, like, nowadays, we are a society that puts Kim Kardashian, Kanye West, and all those fuckers on a pedestal and gawk at them. Most of the general viewing audience, and don't get me wrong if you like those folks, I'm not here creating enemies, I'm just saying, most of the people that watch those shows know that there's, like, it's not reality television, it's all fake, and it's just they're dumb people as a society, we like watching dumb people. That's okay. So, if the people in Hollywood know their audience, they're okay with making a movie that you don't have to think too much. I watched the first 3 before I watched Jurassic World, and Jurassic Park definitely made you, gave you a little more knowledge. Most of the knowledge that I have of dinosaurs, and almost general knowledge, I've got from watching that movie. Because it's, I wish I had an example to throw at you, but, that movie was great. It had strong characters, it had strong female characters, and it had a great plot, and a great, development of characters. And it also had 2 wonderful kids who were the 2 of the protagonists that knew some shit. I mean, the one girl identified as a hacker. The kid in Jurassic World likes to text. His brother is a super genius that they don't really do much with. Spoilers, you can get all this from the trailers itself. But the little kid brother, he's a genius, knows all this shit, knows how long it takes from his house to the airport with traffic and shit like that off the top of his head. But they don't really use his brain that much. And I think as a reflection of our audience is that we don't use our brains that much. I don't know. Arguments can be made from both sides, but how many times do you grab your phone and just zone out for 10 minutes at a time? And that eats away your day instead of, picking up a book. And I'm not saying there aren't people that still pick up books and shit, but technology has gotten way too big for us to ignore, and we've kind of, used it as a crutch in most cases. It's a wonderful advancement in just life, and we're evolving, of course, but our Hollywood movie makers know that, okay, the audience of today is nothing like the audience of 93. We don't have to put all that smart sciencey shit in our movies. There are filmmakers that do, and I applaud them for that. But the general audience, the way movie makers can reach the widest possible audience is to keep them happy. And how do you keep the fans of Keeping Up with the Kardashians? How do you keep up with the Kardashians without turning off your brain? That's my argument there. I just think it's a sign of the times. It's a shame, but the movie did extremely well regardless. Whether you like the movie or not, it did well. It was a wonderful movie. I enjoyed it. But even if I didn't, it would still make the money that it's making because of the way it's constructed. It also had Chris Pratt in it. Chris Pratt, he's fucking Chris Pratt. It's Jurassic Parks and Recreation. He was this kid who just was such a lovable character on a television show, and then he, was in Zero Dark 30. I know he has a bunch of other roles, don't get me wrong, but Guardians of the Galaxy, a Marvel production, sparked up his career even more, and now he's said to be the new Indiana Jones. The kid's on fire, and he's going to keep being on fire, but that was also another cool thing about the movie is that they use Chris Pratt he's a good actor, but they know that he's going to bring people, he's going to put butts in seats, and also giving him the role of training raptors. You have Chris Pratt, who's the super cool dude, next to Indiana Jones, with raptors, the coolest, I would say, next to the T-Rex, if you're a fan of the T-Rex, the coolest dinosaurs, the raptors, the dudes who can open doors. He fucking trains them. And then you have this whole new dinosaur, that the Indominus Rex, that they've genetically modified and all that shit, making it a bigger and better dinosaur. And Chris Pratt's like, there was a time when just dinosaurs were enough. That's a very terrible Chris Pratt, I know. But it's just he's saying, he represents us, and he's always like, I don't think this is a good idea. I've got a bad feeling about this. The Harrison Ford of our generation, he's on point in the movie. Even though the movie has its flaws, it was marketed very well, and it's a formula movie, and that's cool. Everything that's set up gets a payoff. I'm not saying that's the right way to make a movie. I'm not saying it's the wrong way to make a movie, but I'm saying that it worked for them. That's why it made so much money. And I know there will be people that are like, this isn't Jurassic Park. And it ruined a franchise, or it gave it a bad name, and they almost see it as a remake. And to a degree it is. It's on the same island as the original movie. It's essentially the same park, but like reinvigorated for the new generation. And that's what the movie itself is. I don't know, that's like what Phantom Menace was. Granted, I hate Phantom Menace, but that's what Phantom Menace was. It was Star Wars for a new generation. It kept some shit from the originals, obviously, but it was supposed to be the Star Wars for a newer generation of kids. I don't know where the idea of, like, starting Star Wars as Episode 4, maybe just to set up that there's shit that's been happening, or, like, just the 4, 5, 6, starting it in the middle of a franchise, essentially, and then going back and doing the original, like 1, 2, and 3, now doing 7, 8, and 9, presumably. Like, I don't know where that idea came from or how that was conceived. But Phantom Menace Episode 1 wasn't for us. It was for younger kids. I'm not saying it should be or it shouldn't be, but that's why I think George Lucas did it. He also had kids at the time, I think, so he was trying to make it for them. That's why Jar Jar Binks exists, and so that they can put that into an action figure. Nobody fucking likes him, but it was for kids, like, just a funny, cartoonish character. I mean, it was CGI, too. That's movie cartoons. I mean, come on. But this isn't the Matthew Danko Podcast talks about Phantom Menace and how much I hated it, or giving Jar Jar Binks another outlet. It's just that the movies that are made, even like sequels that are made years and years after, sometimes they're not for who you think they're for. Alright, that's it. This was supposed to be a very short episode, and it still is relatively, but here's what you got to look forward to. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to be putting up more episodes that I've done with other people. Jamie and Cody are back, like I said. Jesse Pardee and I will do some talking, and definitely a few solo shows, some movies we watch. So look forward to that, and I hope I probably should be on the next episode of the Guys Talking About Shit podcast now that I'm back in town. Not inviting myself, obviously, if either of you are listening, but I don't know. I definitely like doing the show with other people, as we discussed last episode. It was just a way for me to get all my thoughts and ideas out there, and that's great. But now that I have people that I actually want to sit down and talk to, get inside their heads a little bit, I think the show, the Matthew Danko Podcast, can be so much more. Wish I branded it differently. Wish it had a better name. But that's where it starts, and that's where it'll end. The Matthew Danko Podcast. And then you'll have the Dank Work 2016 to look forward to. And all those shows with the Fishbowl and, the Guys Talking About Shit podcast, and all the work that they're doing, because they're doing tons of work. I got to give it up for Adam. I mean, Bobby contributes a lot to the show. I think Adam does a lot of the editing and more of the technical work, but those guys, they know what they're doing, and I'm glad to have them on my side. And I'm glad, we're really doing this network thing. It's been an idea I've talked about for many, many moons, but it's important that it's done, and it'll be fun. And once I have, a little more control and a little more motivation of what's going on in my life. I mean, right now I'm kind of flying blindly here, entering myself into the real world. I'm hoping that I can now make my own schedules and find the projects I want to do and do them on the time that I have. Because I have tons of projects and tons of things I want to do. Podcasting has always been a big one. And I don't mean to, sound depressed or anything. I'm really bummed that I haven't been doing it as much as I identify myself as a podcaster. I mean, I went to school for film and all that, and I could say I'm a director or screenwriter or editor or sound guy, which is basically what I studied the last 2 years. But first and foremost, I identify as a podcaster because it's where I feel at home. I don't generally speak much ever, unless I'm comfortable with the people I'm around, or if people ask me questions directly, I feel like I'm very well at doing that. I can talk for hours if people ask the right questions, but it shouldn't be like that. I should have this outlet to speak, the not so silent Bob, because that's who I think I am. I have a lot of shit I need to say, and this is definitely where I decided to start saying it. And Bobby and Adam have been great. They've been very supportive and, very helpful in getting me to say some of the shit that I need to say. In fact, they're probably one of the few people that have gotten me mad on their show when we did the trailer for We Are Your Friends, or whatever the fuck that movie is. They're the ones that kind of got me out of my shell a little bit more. So that was cool. Like I said, I think I'm very good at talking. Sometimes I just need a push, and they've definitely pushed me forward. But I guess I do have a little bit of news, at least now that I'm scrolling through Twitter. Kevin Smith has been kind of in the news a little bit lately for his weight loss. He's always been a big dude. I mean, he was once considered too fat to fly. If you've listened to any of the podcasts or just seen any of his Q&As, or even read about that story, where he was kicked off a Southwest airline, he's lost a lot of weight recently, and it's because he saw this documentary called Fed Up, and it went into all about how sugar is basically put into everything we eat. He cut sugar out of his diet, and started drinking these vegetable drinks and beet juice and all this stuff, and he's lost a lot of weight. He's 85 pounds lighter, which is wonderful. I mean, for his health, he has a family now, obviously, and he's invigorated his career through podcasting. He had Tusk and Yoga Hosers, which I'm looking forward to. It's finally complete, and that's the news I had. He tweeted, I think it was the 29th, he will premiere the Yoga Hosers trailer on Friday at San Diego Comic-Con, after the Star Wars panel in Hall H, which is amazing because I've been waiting for Yoga Hosers since I heard about it. The Tusk, Yoga Hosers, and Moose Jaws are 3 parts of his True North trilogy. I probably have mentioned this on many other episodes, but Tusk was the movie where Michael Parks turns Justin Long into a human walrus. Yoga Hosers is another monster movie type thing, starring Lily Rose Depp, I believe that's her name, and Harley Quinn Smith. Kevin Smith and Johnny Depp's daughter are the protagonists in this movie, and their characters are from Tusk. They're in that for a little bit. So all these movies are connecting. They're also bringing over a lot of the same actors, kind of the same way, the same way Kevin Smith has done it in many of his films, where he'll recast the same actor in a new role, and then in a later movie have them play different. Like in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Jason Lee plays 2 characters, and Ben Affleck plays 2 or 3 characters. I think it's 2. Yoga Hosers is the semi-sequel spin-off to Tusk, and then Moose Jaws, which takes place in Moose Jaw, Canada, is Jaws, but with a moose. Kevin Smith is a big advocate for Jaws. He loves Jaws. He, measures things in Jaws. Jaws is like the shark from Jaws, rather. I know Jaws isn't really his name. The shark is like 25 foot long or whatever. So he like, how many Jawses is the Titanic or some shit like that. He loves it's. He puts Jaws references in all of his like Jersey movies, Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy and shit. So this is his chance. He knows he would never be able to make a Jaws movie. Like they would never give him the rights to do that. So he's making Moose Jaws, which is Jaws with a moose. And he's described the one scene where it's like a giant field where just the antlers are shown running through the top of the field. Like, I can picture that perfectly. And that's the other thing is like that movie exists and Tusk exists and Yoga Hosers exists all because of his podcasting. That's why I admire the guy so much, is because he's, first of all, he's happy. He's one of probably the only people in Hollywood that are actually happy. They aren't freaking out, or, I mean, I know there are a lot of people that aren't in the media that much and have figured things out, but he's figured it out on a whole nother level, I think. He's making movies he wants. He's branded himself so well. He's not catering to the widest possible audience. He's catering to his audience. And that's what people don't do. They want as many people in the seats as they can have. But Kevin Smith is doing it for his fans. Like, Tusk was definitely a Smodcast picture. Smodcast is where Tusk began. Him and Scott Mosier were just sitting around a table shooting the shit, and they came up with the idea of Tusk. But that movie has so many references to his podcast and the Smodco universe that it's definitely for fans of his work, and that's great. He didn't even want, like, it got a 600 screen release in America when it came out. He didn't even want that, but the company A24 wanted that. And if you went to see Tusk, and you weren't a fan, you might not have liked the movie as much. You might not have gotten it, or you might just thought it was bad. The people that are his fans definitely liked it, I think. I know there are a lot that didn't. I mean, but that's the other thing too, is like, he made a movie that he wanted to make. A lot of people had asked for it with the hashtag #WalrusYes, but he liked making it. He was just like, what can I get done today? And he had Johnny fucking Depp in the movie. The man's a genius, and I admire him for that, and he's a wonderful guy. I mean, I haven't hung out with him, but he's the guy you would want to hang out with. I've been to many of his Q&As, and just, I know he's technically performing, but at the same time he's not. He's very candid and open. He's willing to answer anything, and is a wonderful storyteller. He's an excellent businessman as well. But he's just, I don't know, he's doing it right, and I think he should be applauded for that. So, cheers to you, Kevin. You figured out, you've cracked the code to life, and I admire you for that. So, welcome back to the Matthew Danko Podcast. Like I said, there will be many episodes uploaded over the next few weeks, which I know should be how it is already, so me promising that shouldn't really be a promise. It should just be expected. But I have a backlog of all these podcasts ready to go out. I just don't want to throw them all up there and have them not be listened to. So, I'm hoping to release them a little bit at a time until I can get far enough behind that I'll always have an episode to upload, even if it's not the most current one I've recorded. You know, so like, if I record an episode 2 weeks ago, but it's not really time specific, where I'm not talking about, they caught Osama bin Laden, and I upload it tomorrow, it's not like, well, fuck, I already knew all that shit. Why the fuck even bother uploading it? So hopefully I just have a collection of podcasts that get uploaded on their own time, and, unless I have really strange news or whatever that I want to get into, or movie news that just gets released, we'll probably cover it on the Guys Talking About Shit podcast, but it's just a little It's a little formula I'm trying to cook up in order to make this go smoothly and be more consistent. So bear with me. This is still a learning process. I'm not exactly an expert. So, with that being said, I will see you there, or I will see you at another time. Thanks for listening to the Matthew Danko Podcast. Don't call it that. Again, I am your host, Matthew, the Dr. Danko. Excelsior!